Tonight, they're no longer outdoors. How the province's biggest hospital is storing a number of unclaimed bodies.
We had always in the plans to develop a longer-term morgue and storage site, and that's a part of the larger redevelopment of the lab.
Unclaimed remains are no longer located in outdoor freezer units, but they haven't made it to the morgue yet either.
Anybody that parks downtown still kind of feels unsafe at this point.
That's not the bartender's job, and it's not our job either.
Drag artists are feeling especially vulnerable. Still to come, beefing up security in downtown St. John's.
If you wanted to be seen in Corner Brook, the place to dine was the Glynmill Inn.
Well, the Fancies Hotel in Corner Brook was built 100 years ago, but it wasn't always used as a hotel. I'll tell you about the history of the Glynmill Inn. That's tonight.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. There are no longer freezer units storing dozens of unclaimed bodies outside the province's largest hospital. CBC News first broke the story back in March, how bodies at the morgue were piling up and containers were being used as overflow. Elizabeth Whitten brings us this update.
Underground, in a hospital garage, there's a loud buzz coming from a trio of freezers. Where cars once parked, there are now cadavers, people who haven't been claimed for burial, now in storage. This was the scene in the Health Sciences underground parking garage last week. A few days ago, a wall popped up, blocking them from sight. Unclaimed bodies is not a new problem for the Health Authority. Back in March, this is where the freezers sat, in a loading zone next to dumpsters. Eastern Health Zone COO Ron Johnson says a team is now tasked with handling unclaimed remains in a respectful way.
We've also did some infrastructure work to have a more dignified, respectful place for the storage of bodies. And I'm pleased to say that that's in place now, and we removed the coolers from the loading docks.
Those units are now in one place, the underground garage.
So we have them now inside the building, and what that does, it gives us an ability to be able to work more effectively outside of the elements.
On March 7th, the day after the CBC News first reported the story, the Health Authority started buying up morgue equipment for a total of $200,000.
Those were probably ordered at around that time, and most of that items came in the past few weeks, and we've implemented and used those now in our temporary storage location.
Plans are also underway for a bigger facility that can store more unclaimed corpses.
So the temporary location and the permanent location are all in the same place. So the plans and the ordering of the materials, that's all well away.
That new storage facility in the parking garage should be completed in October. Johnson says, out of respect for the families, he would not say how many bodies are in storage or how many the new facility will hold. Elizabeth Whitten, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, downtown St. John's is the center of drag culture in Newfoundland and Labrador, but performers say thefts and harassment are common, and they have concerns for their safety. CBC's Abby Cole reports.
This is Lucas Oram-Feltham's drag room. He makes all of his own costumes and styles his own wigs. And when he puts on these outfits, he's on stage as Terra Nova. It's hard work to make all of these things that go into making a persona like Terra Nova. So when $1,000 worth of drag accessories were stolen from his parked car, it hurt. That was last summer. Since then, his car has been broken into almost every weekend when he performs.
I think that a lot of us artists, and not just us artists, anybody that parks downtown still kind of feels unsafe at this point. I don't think that there has been any change at all. For me, I am downtown regularly every weekend working, and every single night I come out to my car and my car has been rummaged through.
Lucas Oram-Feltham says downtown St. John's is not safe for drag performers. Performers often feel unsafe outside venues. They hear comments and worse, threats.
So I don't think that we feel safe a lot of the time unless we are surrounded with our own people.
Will Critch performs as Gravy. They agree that safety is an issue for drag queens in downtown St. John's.
As artists working in a space where people are intoxicated a lot of the time, you kind of do have to keep your guard up, and sometimes it is kind of like on the queens to kind of defend yourself.
The Downtown Safety Coalition recently announced increased security. There will be more private security guards beyond George Street, now patrolling Duckworth and Water Street. Will Critch hopes that this increase in security will help drag performers feel safer at venues outside of George Street.
Increased security if it is respectful, and if the people securing the environment are educated in what they're doing. I think that's an extremely valuable thing, and I think even the effort being made shows that they're willing to start this conversation and make a change. Right now we're in a world where we really don't know if someone is supportive or not, so it never hurts to show your support and hug your local drag queen or give a high five or just say, "Hey girl."
Even with the promise of more security, Lucas Oram Feltham says drag performers should be vigilant. Don't walk to gigs alone and lock up items while performing. Abby Cole, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the union that represents inshore cod harvesters in this province is calling on the federal government to reverse last week's decision to reopen a commercial fishery and what it called an end to the moratorium. The FFAW says the decision means offshore draggers will now be allowed to begin catching cod again, something its members say will erase the progress that's been made to rebuild cod stocks.
We cannot repeat the mistakes of the past. It was fishermen who warned the cod were disappearing, and they were ignored for years, while offshore draggers continued to scoop up vulnerable aggregations. They were ignored then, but they won't be ignored now.
And within a very few short years, what we've gone through for 32 years, we'll be right back there again. That's not acceptable. So we call on our politicians today, overturn this decision, go back, and let's wait till it gets a lot better. The sign says it's a lot better than what it actually is right now.
Now, the federal fisheries minister declined a request for an interview. In a statement, Minister Diane Leboutillier says she's confident last week's announcement will generate opportunities for coastal and Indigenous communities in Newfoundland and Labrador and will protect the resource for future generations. Well, to Labrador now, where a wildfire is still burning out of control near the town of Churchill Falls. Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro says conditions changed since last night and have not changed since last night, and is reminding residents that the evacuation order is still in effect. Meanwhile, a second nearby fire has been downgraded and is now considered to be under control. Well, the Coast Guard invested Governor General Mary Simon as its honorary chief commissioner in a ceremony in St. John's today. It's a symbolic role that's been given to the Governor General for nearly 50 years to promote the Coast Guard's work in saving lives and protecting the environment. Simon is also the first Inuk to hold the position.
It is my pleasure to host this morning's ceremony as Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary Simon, is invested as honorary chief commissioner of the Canadian Coast Guard.
I received the honorary commissioner here today, which I'm very honored to receive, and you know, it's so important to support the Coast Guard, and they do such important work, so I'm very pleased about that.
This is the third time that we've had the honor in St. John's to host the Governor General and do an investiture into as the honorary chief commissioner of the Coast Guard. So very special for the Coast Guard, and very special for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians for sure, and all of Atlantic Canada for having the opportunity to host her.
The Coast Guard is a very humble organization, and we don't do a good job of selling ourselves. So having an ambassador from outside that recognizes the great work that we do and speak about it is only going to give us more visibility and also better appreciation for the work that all the Coast Guard members do from coast to coast to coast.
I am proud to assume this role, and I am proud to be here with you this morning. So thank you so much. Nakuk meik. Merci.
All these items on the table fit into this bag. The hope is to get it to every first responder across the province.
So that if they're dealing with an autistic individual in a crisis situation, they have the tools to communicate with them.
I'm Arlette Lazarenko, and I'll tell you more about it.
Another rainy day in the east today. Lots of heavy rain around. In fact, somewhere between 20 to as much as 50 millimeters of rain has already fallen for eastern areas of the island. You can see that rain there thanks to a front. We're seeing some cooler temperatures as well at the moment, but clearing skies happening at the for the west coast and heading towards central right now as well. Not a whole lot happening up across Labrador, but there is some thunderstorms on the way or happening right now, I should say, and that risk will continue. So lots of moisture associated with this front. We'll continue to see that rain through the overnight tonight. Eventually, by the time we get into tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, that should end. The rain should end, and it should actually turn into a pretty decent day tomorrow. But if you think that it has been rainy in St. John's through June, you would be right. 214.6 millimeters is what ended up falling this month, or last month, I should say. 88.2 millimeters is what we typically see, and that broke the record from 1891 of 198.9 millimeters. So, like I said, there's more rain on the way. We'll get into all of that and when it's going to get nicer. I'll tell you that coming up too.
Thanks, Ashley. The Glynmill Inn opened in Corner Brook 100 years ago. The iconic hotel in the center of the city was one of the first buildings on the West Coast to have electricity, and it wasn't always a hotel. Here Now's Colleen Connors has the story.
The Glynmill Inn. Flowers in full bloom, green trim. It's a stunner of a hotel. Restaurants, ballrooms, a bar, and 78 rooms, many executive suites. This summer, it's the spot for tourists, weddings, and conferences. But in 1924, it was a very different place.
It was started as a staff quarters for men that came here to build the mill. Basically management, engineers, those overseeing the construction. And it's opened in 1923, where they started living there. And it was officially opened by Sir Glen West of the Armstrong Wentworth Company, who was building the mill in 1924.
Sir Glen West, the front door donning his name. Built in the Tudor style, the building was designed by Andrew Cobb of Halifax. Architecturally, it hasn't changed much at all in a century. For 1924, it was ahead of its time, with electricity from the hydro plant in Deer Lake. Restaurants, a private club, and a tennis court. Not your typical work camp accommodations. Some of its treasures from those early days are on display at the Corner Brook Museum. A menu printed on a mini paper roll, a symbol of the mill, and the reason this place is here.
Everybody knows what it looks like. The Glynmill Inn Pond, it's a focal point. So I think, you know, it's certainly something that a lot of people remember, because it's also service organizations go there, have held events there. The naval, when in World War II, when the Bay of Islands Naval Force was risen up, the first meetings were held there. Rotary Club meets there. So it's certainly a focal point for the community.
So come on in. Some of the building's original rooms are still intact. But through the years, with a fire, major renovations, and new owners, it has held the aesthetic of high society.
With the hotel, I mean, we had silver service, and we still continue to have our white tablecloths and our cloth napkins. If you wanted to be seen in Corner Brook, the place to dine was the Glynmill Inn. And we know a lot of seniors that dined here over the years, and even as they got older up in age, and I'm saying in their 90s, they still insisted on going to lunch at the Glynmill.
People from Corner Brook know this place well. They got married here, celebrated anniversaries here at the wine cellar, or worked here.
There were 7 of my 8 siblings that have worked here. So at one point it was 8 children and my mom.
And if you weren't from Corner Brook, you may have stayed here, maybe in the same room as a mill engineer 100 years ago. Staff here at the Glynmill Inn want to continue celebrating that importance, that opulence, with events like a garden party in early September and a New Year's Eve gala. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, a medical emergency or a fire can be an overwhelming experience, but first responders in this province now have some new equipment to help people with autism during those situations. It's called a sensory toolkit. Arlette Lazarenko explains.
When an emergency strikes, first responders often don't know what they're facing. That goes for police officers, firefighters, and paramedics. Now they have another tool to deal with the unexpected. It's from the Autism Society of Newfoundland and Labrador.
What we want is a society that's inclusive, is an understanding of each other's neurotypes, of each other's way of communicating, of each other's way of being. And this really helps promote that.
The tools in the kit help ease emotions and communicate with autistic individuals in moments of crisis, like a comforting weighted blanket, noise-canceling headphones, or without using words, pointing to how they feel.
So diversity is a reality, inclusion's a choice. And autism is often defined as an invisible disability. So you might not know, quote unquote, but just look at the individual as a human being saying, this person's not in a good place. How do I help them regulate and get back to a good place?
Our CMP Staff Sergeant Troy Bennett partnered with the Society to supply the kits. His inspiration came when he saw a firefighter in Stephenville using a similar kit. But for him, this is also personal.
I'm the father of a 7-year-old autistic son. He's non-speaking and he's also has sometimes difficulty with emotional regulation. I think about situations in which he may be involved and maybe somebody is not there to speak for him. So I would want, and as a parent, I would want the first responder is going through that to be able to appropriately be able to deal with him, appropriately be able to assist him and ensure that, help him ensure that he's going to be safe.
It really gives us a lot of sort of a heartwarming sense to know that, there's people out here who really do understand, so that we are moving forward as a society.
The kits are now being circulated. The goal is to get them into the hands of every first responder. Arlette Lazarenko, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the 10th season of The Amazing Race Canada begins tonight, and two best friends from Mount Pearl will be on it. Colin Rose and Matt Roberts have been applying to be on the reality show every year for a decade. The pair took time off from work to film the show earlier this year, and now they can finally start talking about it, at least some of it anyway.
What are you at? I'm Colin. And I'm Matt. And we're from Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. And we're going to win The Amazing Race Canada!
We've been watching The Amazing Race even before The Amazing Race Canada was even a thing. We started out watching The Amazing Race US version back when we were, grade 4, 5, 6. So The Amazing Race has always been something that, we've dreamt of doing. And as soon as the race came to Canada, it's something that Matt and I knew that we wanted to do. So we've been applying since the very first season to be on the show.
We've been applying the whole 10 years. So ever since season 1 of The Amazing Race Canada, we've been applying together, and we knew eventually they had to let us on, right?
Matt is one of the funniest guys that I've met.
You go on this adventure and then you have to keep it quiet, and now it's finally something that you're able to talk about somewhat. It's a bit of a relief, and we're excited to kind of relive it again and kind of share our story with Newfoundland and the country, really.
There really is nothing you can do to prepare other than maybe doing a little bit of cardio. You have no idea what the race is going to be throwing at you. You have no idea where you're going, what you're doing, and it's one of the most stressful experiences that you can ever have, but by far one of the coolest.
He's the perfect partner. He complements my weaknesses, and we're looking forward to this adventure.
This race shows you to expect the unexpected, and this race is essentially it's life in a pressure cooker, right? Like you're stressed, you're having so much fun, but you're just go, right? But yeah, I mean, no more couch quarterbacking, I guess you could say, because it was humbling for sure.
By far the most incredible experience that we could have ever imagined. And what I'm taking away from it is, if you have something that you want to do in life, go for it. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. And just don't give up on your dreams. If you have something you want to do, just put your head down and work for it.
This race was the greatest experience that I've had, and I think that, it'll remain at the top of the list for the rest of Colin and my life. This race has taught us that, you can totally do things that you would never expect or think that you can do, and all you have to do is just one foot in front of the other and, take it one clue at a time, one day at a time.
Well, from peaceful whale watching to crashing waves, we tag along for a Canada Day cruise out through the Narrows. That's still to come.
Well, it has been a rainy day today for a good chunk of eastern Newfoundland. Unfortunately, that rain's going to stick around tonight. Eventually, it'll clear out tomorrow. I'll get into all the forecast details coming up.
Ashley, I guess the big weather story is the rain. We've had a lot of it in the past few days and today, and even you mentioned earlier about June being a record-breaking wet month. So are we getting more rain?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like we've seen a break at all. The good news is it does look like after today we kind of turn a little bit of a corner, so we should say goodbye to the heavy rain for a little bit anyway. But yeah, let's take a look at what's going on right now. We've got that front that's sparking all of those showers or bringing all of those showers now to the mainly eastern Newfoundland. That's where the warnings are. So Burin Peninsula, most of the Avalon under that rainfall warning. And if I zoom in a little bit, you can see where that heavy rain is. Now we've seen only about 15 millimeters here in St. John's, but areas like Bay Roberts, I saw a report of 55 millimeters of rain. So if you've been set up under some of these bands, these heavier bands, which, you know, they're dropping quite a bit of rain. You will continue to see that as we head through tonight. Now, most of this rain should track a little bit further east, so areas like the metro area should start to see some of that heavier rain through the overnight, so we should see those numbers creep up a little bit. But overall, if I stop that, you can see where that is just at this point west of Clarenville. It looks like towards the Bonavista Peninsula. Most of that rain, though, looks like it's falling offshore, the heaviest rain anyway falling offshore. But like I said, expect this to continue through tonight. The other thing you'll note by looking at this map is the temperatures. They're cooler, certainly east, only about 15 or 16 degrees today, topped out at about 17 in St. John. Same thing for Gander, but you head further west, temperatures are a tad warmer, 21 to 23 or even 24 degrees. But all that heat still up across Labrador. Happy Valley Goose Bay, 28 degrees today. Some thunderstorms popping up as well. That risk will continue over the next few hours as well. Not a whole lot of humidity associated with this. It's feeling a bit humid for the west coast, more like 25 in Corner Brook, 27 in Deer Lake. But for the most part, this will continue. We will start to see that humidity, though, creep up as we head towards the end of the week. So again, that risk of a few isolated thunderstorms still for the next couple of hours up across Labrador. And the heaviest showers over the next few hours are really into the overnight period for the Avalon as well. But places like the Burin Peninsula, Bonavista, you should start to see that taper off. And eventually that will taper off by the time we get into tomorrow morning for the rest of the Avalon. As far as temperatures are concerned tonight, 10 to 13 degrees overnight for most of the island. Winds generally light, not seeing a whole bunch of wind with this, but overall temperatures tonight still relatively mild, 11 to 15 degrees for most of Labrador, with the exception of Nain, where you will hover around 9 degrees today. So tomorrow, beautiful start to the day for most of the island. In fact, it's going to be an absolutely gorgeous day. The clouds will linger through the first half of the day. We're in northerly flow as well for the Burin, for most of eastern Newfoundland, which is going to keep temperatures cool tomorrow. We should see those skies clear, though, as we get into mid-afternoon for the Avalon, so it should turn into a pretty nice day. Chance of showers again for Lab West, and then maybe even towards the coast and potentially up across northern areas of Labrador as well as you get into the evening hours. Clouds will be on the increase across the island as well as we head into Thursday morning. Temperature or rainfall wise, like I said, there's still quite a bit of rain to fall potentially. We could be talking about another 20 to 30 millimeters for eastern areas of the island. Most of the Burin and Bonavista peninsulas, you're into the heaviest rain now, but that should end, like I said. Temperatures tomorrow going to stay cool, 14 to 16 degrees rather. Again, northerly winds a little brisk, upwards of 60 kilometers per hour. Central, west coast, even the south coast, still looking at temperatures in the low 20s, upper 20s though through central. Onshore flow though going to keep temperatures cool for those of you in Burgeo. And as far as Labrador is concerned, another beautiful day as far as temperatures go. 29 in Happy Valley Goose Bay towards the coast, mid to upper 20s. And same thing for Lab West, Nain. You'll hover around 19 degrees. We'll get into the long range forecast. It is looking a bit better. I'll get into that coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, wind, rain, and fog aren't exactly ideal conditions for a boat tour. To mark Canada Day, CBC's Jessica Singer and video producer Mark Humby went out on the water. They braved the swells in search of some whales and to embark on a local rite of passage.
Was this your first time seeing a whale? Yeah, on Newfoundland and anywhere.
So far we've seen 3 humpback whales, 1 puffin, and a lot of very untanned Canadians. So.
Oh my goodness, look over there, Mark.
Hold on. We're into the waves here now.
I'm not kidding even. Tyler, is this what you usually see out here in the Atlantic?
So it's not usually rough like this unless it's in the winter time. We're currently getting away from the protection of the land, so that's why we're getting so big swells. So yeah, it's just until we get back under the Cape Spear. So we've seen about 5 humpback whales today, but now on average about 10,000 humpback whales come to our shores every summer.
And what do you love about being on the ocean so much, Tyler?
I would say the air, the clean air, the saltwater air. Sometimes you might get a bit wet from the saltwater spray, but I would say my favorite thing is the experience as a whole.
And how long have you been out on the water on these tours?
So this is my 4th year with Iceberg Quest, but on the water, I would say I've been on the water my whole life.
Oh, you was born on the water. I am not, but I'm surprisingly doing okay here. It is not for the weak of stomachs.
Thank you very much for your patience, guys.
It's the left foot once and the right foot twice, the right foot once and the right foot twice. And eyes devise to build the boats, and eyes devise to sail the fair, and eyes devise to catch the fish to bring them home to Liza. This is the stuff that'll fix you up. There you go.
Yay!
Are you screechers? Indeed I is.
Indeed I is.
The old cock. And long may.
And long may.
Your big jib.
Your big jib.
Drop. Down the hatch. Whoa! Now not finish what you get. That's good, my dear. You'll always have a home here on the island, my dear.
Thank you.
So in good times and bad times, come back, we'll take care of you. Screech!
There's nothing like solidarity, unity, collaboration, contribution.
Well, it'll be a powerful performance with a powerful message. 1,400 voices will sing in unison tonight here at the Mary Brown Center, a song about compassion and humanity. We'll tell you more about NULA coming up. Well, 1,400 voices will sing together in a mass choir tonight at the Mary Brown Centre in St. John's. It's the gala concert for the Harbour Voices Festival. They'll perform a song called Nula, which means we are here in Haitian Creole. This afternoon, we attended the rehearsal for Nula and spoke with people behind the project.
The message of Nula is asking people to confront inhumanity. It's that's what we hope that it does, that it inspires people to confront inhumanity and to stand with marginalized communities, to stand with people that don't have a voice, and to continue to have empathy and compassion. It's a piece that has resonated with choirs and audiences around the world. Nula is actually Haitian Creole for "we are here." And when I was asked to write this piece, the conductor, Nicole Andrews, she asked me to write a piece that would help make a difference. You know, she wanted to use the platform of Phoenix Chamber Choir as a way to make a difference and to stand with marginalized communities.
Oftentimes when we attend a concert or listen to music, it makes us feel good. And the music will often treat subjects of love or, have great storytelling. And it's not often that we get a chance to listen to music that is actually dealing with current events and that is compelling individuals to stop and to think about how they fit into the story, what role they play, what can they do. So this piece is really about offering the audience an opportunity to pause and to reflect.
The way Sydney wrote the piece, or rewrote the piece, is there's Choir 1, which is about 1,400 voices, and Choir 2, which is a combination of Phoenix and Nathaniel Dett. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, 1,400 voices singing this one song. What do you think that's going to be like for the audience to hear that?
I don't know that I can even put that into words, to be honest. It's so incredibly powerful. When we commissioned Sydney a few years ago, I said to him, I want a piece that when it's over, people don't know if they should clap. They need to really check themselves and evaluate the way they're living their lives. And I think people will experience that tonight.
Goosebumps guaranteed. Now that massive choir will have a 6-time Grammy Award-winning musician joining them tonight. Jacob Collier may still be in his 20s, but the British performer has already beaten previous Grammy records set by David Bowie and the Beatles. His interactive choral arrangements have won over audiences the world over, and we caught up with Jacob Collier just before leaving London.
This is a particularly special show. I mean, first of all, I've never been to St. John's and to come to such a, what seems like the most beautiful place imaginable from photographs I've seen is already a privilege, but also that we'll be graced by so many astounding choirs from all over the world. And so to me, when I first heard about this opportunity, I was kind of lost for words, because it just feels like a dream, kind of like a bucket list dream gig for me. You've got all these amazing singers in one room, all of whom come from different walks of life, different cultural kind of standpoints, but coming together to kind of celebrate the human voice and celebrate each other. So yeah, to have been asked to be a part of it and to be able to, you know, curate an amount of it and bring all those voices together is really, really exciting. And I have an amount of the show that's kind of planned out and mapped out, but also a large amount that's not. And I'm hoping to kind of just see if we can find some magic that is you know, a little unprecedented, but something that could only ever happen in St. John's, you know. So a lot of my my earliest fascinations began in this exact place that I'm talking to you from in London, where I sort of would sponge up all sorts of things as a child, sonic things, visual things, linguistic things. And I think my family was one where creative discussions would be fairly frequent. And so I think I found myself experimenting with different ways of seeing the world, which really kind of thrilled me as a child. And I think I soon realized that music offered itself as a particularly unique and colorful language as a way to explore the forces that make life work. You know, it's impossible to join forces with all these musicians and not feel consistently humbled by the amount there is to know and the amount there is to learn and explore. In some ways, like, the things that you don't know are more important than the things that you do know. And I think that, yeah, when you make music with an audience or a person or in any shape or form, I think that you always discover something new. And the process of continuously discovering new things sort of keeps you young and grounded and open in a sense, I think.
Well, the great-nephew of John Skywalk, a revered member of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, says the refurbished National War Memorial in downtown St. John's is still missing a piece of history. Daniel Pottle says Indigenous soldiers are unsung heroes of the Great War. He spoke with the CBC's Heather Hiscox during yesterday's Memorial Day special.
A German shell exploded, an errant German shell exploded, and him and six of his comrades fell. That's where they laid that day, and his remains, until a few years ago, were unknown to us where his final resting place were, until some work was done by local historian here, Frank Gogos, and cartographer David Mercier at Memorial University, who took the coordinates from the battle that they were able to pinpoint exactly where they fell. So he's now under 6 meters of rubble. There's no way we'll ever.
Really? But he went from being one of those 800 names we see on the wall of those who were unknown. At least you know where he is. Now, it's not a very satisfactory final resting place, I'm sure, but to know that, is that important to you and the family?
No, that's very, very powerful to know that so many others do not have the same honor that we have now, to know where his final remains are and where his resting place is. It's so significant.
You can go there and you could pay
I can go there. I hope to get there one day, and I will. I've always held my Uncle John and other Indigenous veterans in very high regard. I think they were the unsung heroes of the war, the great wars, peacekeeping efforts. They were Indigenous. They were recognized as citizens of our country. They never received the same benefits when they came home. They were shunned, and they were left to their own devices. They were a part of liberating. That my Uncle John is revered in France for his role of coming to liberate France and the rest of Europe during World War I. I wish that he was held in that same regard here in this country, and that's what I'm working towards.
I was going to say, you're not just, those aren't just words, you're actually making this advocacy, and you're hoping to have more attention paid to the service and sacrifice of Indigenous veterans. What would you like to see? I know you have a plan for what is up near that National War Memorial. You'd like to have something for the Indigenous veterans too, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would like to see, given that the province of Newfoundland and Labrador has expropriated the land adjacent to the War Memorial with a plan to expand that. I think it's time for the province and Canada to work together with another Indigenous organization to ensure that Indigenous veterans are honored, recognized, commemorated, and they take their rightful place in the history of this province and in this country. Therefore, I would like to see some sort of monument or a memorial, hopefully in the likeness of my Uncle John Skywalk, to represent all Indigenous veterans. He's renowned, he's one of the most well-known, and I just read this morning, given his military record, he was one of the most significant soldiers in the Royal Newfoundland Regiment. That speaks miles.
It really
he should
does.
be commemorated.
The Canadian military has quietly walked back on one of the more controversial changes to its relaxation of dress code regulations, hair grooming. CBC's Murray Brewster has the details in this exclusive report.
By traditional military standards, this is considered a bit scruffy.
I get to wear a pretty cool mustache now.
And that's why the military has moved to set some limits. It has amended its controversial grooming regulations, rules that were first relaxed in September 2022. The length of beards is now restricted to 2.5 centimeters, and hair for both men and women must be tied back away from the face and off the collar.
All right, bring it down there.
The relaxation of decades-old standards has been the subject of sometimes furious debate that has divided military members. This internal D&D survey, obtained by CBC News, shows just how deep the split runs when it comes to the overall relaxation of standards. Only about 33% feel as though the initial changes are good for the CAF. 44% do not. Members of the Army, non-commissioned members, and men are generally less supportive. However, women and members of the 2SLGBTQ+ community say it makes them proud to serve. When the relaxed rules first came into effect, the military was at the height of the sexual misconduct crisis. Important context for this researcher who says that atmosphere contributed to cynicism among the troops.
It's quite hard to read those changes as outside of the political and social context where they happened, which was the sexual misconduct crisis and questioning of the military's equity, diversity, and inclusion record.
But a former senior commander disagrees, saying the changes were first discussed as far back as 2016 and intended to reflect the new overall face of Canadian society.
The Canadian Forces is still getting a sense of who it is culturally.
The argument against the relaxed standards, most often, is that it takes away from combat effectiveness. However, there is nothing in the research to back that up.
This has made some profoundly uncomfortable, based on the generation they come from. Others from a newer generation are completely at ease with it.
Most of Canada's allies ended this grooming debate several years ago. Many allow beards as long as they're trimmed. Hair is a different story, though. Most allied nations insist they're
Apologies for that technical problem there. Moving now to some politics. Ken McDonald is stepping away from federal politics. The Liberal Member of Parliament for Avalon says he hasn't ruled out venturing into provincial politics, but he isn't saying yes just yet either. He spoke with the CBC's Power and Politics just a few minutes ago and had this to say about the decision.
This decision was a decision that myself and my wife Trudy made quite some time ago. When I first got into this, we figured I'd do 2 terms and get out. So it ended up being 3 elections, and I decided that it's time to let people know that I will not be running the next time. If I did that early enough so as people could come forward if they're interested in running under the Liberal banner, and if they're not, well, the party will have to come up with somebody, but it won't be me.
Well, that's Ken McDonald speaking with CBC just moments ago. The Avalon MP will not be seeking re-election in the next federal election. McDonald says if he were to venture into provincial politics, it would likely be in his home district of Conception Bay South. Well, you now have a chance to see the British royal family's Scottish holiday home up close. Yes, for the first time in its over 170-year history, Balmoral Castle opened its doors to the public yesterday. Tickets, which cost £100 or 170 Canadian dollars, were all scooped up soon after they went on sale in April. Visitors get a guided tour of the castle, including its entrance hall, family dining room, and library. The royal retreat in the Scottish Highlands was considered late Queen Elizabeth's favorite place. Balmoral is where her final public picture was taken days before she died on September 8th, 2022. right, time for a look at the long range. Already looking ahead to Thursday. You mentioned earlier that things are looking up in terms of temperature.
Yeah, it's been pretty chilly the last couple of days. A bit humid out there as well, but temperatures through central west coast, not so much. It's been absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, we'll see a bit of a change in the forecast, which is nice. Let's take a look at the forecast as we head through Wednesday evening, and you'll see some showers roll through Labrador through the overnight and into Thursday morning rather. It's going to stay a bit wet through the afternoon. Now, as far as the island goes, we're looking at temperatures the cloud cover sticking around through the day on Thursday, and then eventually we are going to see some of those showers move towards potentially the west coast, but we should see some clearing skies there as well. And Labrador will generally be looking at that unsettled weather. Now, you may see a few peaks of sun in the mix through the afternoon, but for the most part, it will be unsettled. And then eventually, we may even see some showers again late day on Thursday for the Avalon. Overall, temperatures will be into the 20s through central west coast. Still in the upper teens, though, for the eastern portion of the island. Labrador, you're going to cool off a little bit, but still right around where you should be sitting this time of year, anywhere from 21 to 23 degrees. And for Nain, you'll be sitting around 15 degrees through the afternoon. Into Thursday evening and Friday, again, some showers to start the day, but we should see some clearing as the day goes on. We may hang on to some cloud cover in the morning for the eastern half of the island. That shower activity will move through central into the afternoon on Friday, and most of Labrador will be seeing a clearing trend through the day. Temperatures dropping a little bit down to about 16 degrees for Lab City, hovering around 21 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. But we really start to see some warmth for the island. Central, we'll see temperatures in the upper 20s, starting to get back into the 20s for the Avalon as well. Should hover around 22 degrees as our daytime high. The long range forecast showing temperatures in the 20s as we get through Sunday. Saturday looking nice at this point. Let's hope that stays that way, but some more showers moving in for Sunday. Now for central Newfoundland, pretty nice stretch of weather there. Saturday, 26 degrees and sunshine, some showers possible on Sunday. Rain, the story for western Newfoundland. And overall, your temperatures will be between 22 and 23 degrees. Labrador, you're looking at a nice stretch of weather as well into the 20s. A little cooler for western Labrador, but still nice with plenty of sunshine through the day. A beautiful photo, blue sky.
Stunning.
Lupins in the
Love
wind.
it.
This is Random Island. It's a great shot, hey?
Beautiful.
Yeah, Wanda shared this lovely photo. Thank you so much for that. Trinity Bay there. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, you can send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Yeah, I just love it when the lupins are out.
They just make everything look so pretty.
It really does, really does. Yeah. All right, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Hope you can join us again tomorrow.
Good night.